you've recently talked about effective altruism on your podcast. I think
Hmm.
you mentioned some interesting statement. I'm going to horribly misquote you, but that you'd rather live in a world, like it doesn't really make sense, but you'd rather live in a world where you care about maybe your daughter and son more than 100 people that live across the world, or something like this. Or like where the
Yeah,
calculus is not always perfect, but somehow it makes sense to live in a world where it's irrational in this way, and yet empathetic in the way you've been discussing.
right. I'm not sure what the right answer is there, or even whether there is one right answer. There could be multiple, peaks on this part of the moral landscape. But so the opposition is between an ethic that's articulated by someone like the Dalai Lama, right? Or really any exponent of classic Buddhism would say that sort of the ultimate enlightened ethic is true dispassion with respect to friends and strangers, right? So that you would, the mind of the Buddha would be truly dispassionate. You would love and care about all people equally. Uh, and by that light, it seems some kind of ethical failing, or at least failure of to really fully actualize compassion in the limit, or enlightened wisdom in the limit, to care more, or even and much more, about your kids than the kids of other people, or and to prioritize your energy in that way, right? So you spend all this time trying to figure out how to keep your kids healthy and happy, and you'll attend to their minutest concerns, and however superficial. And and again, there's a genocide raging in Sudan, or wherever, and it takes up less than 1% of your bandwidth. I'm not sure it would be a better world if everyone was running the Dalai Lama program there. I think some prioritization of one's nearest and dearest ethically might be optimal, because we'll all be doing that. And we'll all be doing that in a circumstance where we have certain norms and laws and other structures that force us to be dispassionate where that matters, right? So like when my daughter gets sick and I have to take her to a hospital, I really want her to get attention, right? And I'm worried about her more than I'm worried about everyone else in the lobby. But the truth is, I actually don't want a totally corrupt hospital. I don't want a hospital that treats my daughter better than anyone else in the lobby because she's my daughter and I've, bribed the guy at the door, or whatever, or the guy's a fan of my podcast, or whatever the thing is. You don't want starkly corrupt, unfair situations. And when you sort of get pressed down the hierarchy of Maslow's needs, individually and societally, a bunch of those variables change, and they change for the worse, understandably. But yeah, when everyone's corrupt, and you're in a state of collective emergency. You've got a lifeboat problem. You're scrambling to get into the lifeboat. Yeah, then fairness and norms and the other vestiges of civilization begin to get stripped off. We can't reason from those emergencies to normal life. I mean, in normal life, we want justice, we want fairness, we're all better off for it, even when the spotlight of our concern is focused on the people we know, the people who are friends, the people who are family, people we have good reason to care about. We still, by default, want a system that protects the interests of strangers too. And we know that, generally speaking, and just in game theoretic terms, we're all going to tend to be better off in a fair system than a corrupt one.